Scott, so take us back before real estate. I mean, what were you doing and what got you into this crazy game?
Okay. So before real estate, I've always had some type of job. Or something I was into. So my first job was actually when I was around 12 years old at a 9-pin bowling alley. I used to set up the pins, and that was actually my first job. Then I also worked in middle school as a bagger at a grocery store on a military base. So I did both of those growing up in middle school. Then high school, in 10th grade, I started going to the teen parties in our city. And the guy that threw the teen parties I'd show up with 10 people, and he asked me, he said, "Hey, would you ever want to pass out flyers and get VIP?" I'm like, I could do that at my school. So he would come, he would give me a stack of flyers, and I would pass them out, and we show up 20, 30 people to these events. And then when I get to around 11th grade, he said, "Hey, would you ever be open to getting paid for this?" And I said, what would that look like? And he said, "Well, I would pick you up from lunch, and I would take you into other high schools, and you would pass out flyers inside of there." And I did that, and from there, I would get paid from it. Well, when I turned 18, I already knew a lot of people that from going to every high school in the city and passing out flyers. So I started throwing 18 and up parties here in San Antonio. And then when I turned 21, I started doing 21 and up parties. I started doing concerts and events. And that was something I did for, I guess since I was in high school till I was around 26, 27. And then I decided to come into real estate. So it was a season of my life. I look at life as seasons. That was one of them. I also owned kiosk businesses inside of the mall. So I managed a R&B singer here in San Antonio. His name is AJ Hearns. We were on tour with Drake and Lil Wayne on his come up. And we had a sponsor from this kiosk here in town called Shoe Magic. It was a shoe cleaner. I think y'all have them there at Scottsdale too. It's a shoe cleaner product. And I was able to franchise. So I ended up opening 3. I ended up opening 14, 3 in San Antonio. I opened some in Cleveland, some in North Carolina, Winston-Salem, and then some border towns here in Texas. So I learned then, which when you talk about ESO, I learned then expanding, just saying, "Oh, I got a cousin in Cleveland, so we're going to open there next week," is not how you expand. So when Kristen says, you're forced to the next market over, that's one thing that I learned actually being in real estate now. That's why I haven't really gone to far cities away from where we are. We focus kind of where we're at. So I ended up selling those kiosks. I made a decision. We learn in bold the word D-side stands for the death of all of the options, like pesticide or suicide. D-side stands for the death of all of the options. So I picked a date, and I said, this is the date that I'm going to come into real estate. And from there, I haven't looked back. I came in as a solo agent. So you want to go into that part now? I guess we could.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Oh, well, let me ask you this. So you're basically working as a promoter, right? Is that okay? Very cool. And then you also had.
Yeah, I would go to a venue that was dead, like on a Friday night. They maybe had 20, 30 people, and I would say, "Hey, if we were to get the whole door and a percentage of the bar, what can we work out?" And they said, "Well, we'll give you 10% of the bar, and we'll give you the door. You take care of the DJ, you take care of the security." And we would take that from 10, 20 people to 500 people to 1,000 people a night. Matters what the venue looked like. Some of them we would do concerts once a month. Some of them we would just have a celebrity come host the party. Yet we would do it on a weekly basis, and then we would bring somebody every quarter just to keep it fresh and new. We would do different gimmicks too, like stoplight parties. If you're single, wear green. If you're not, wear red. Like we would do certain things like that also.
Well, and the reason I parked there for a second, Scott, is because obviously, what a great way to learn negotiation, gathering a crowd, lead generation. All of those things. And then with a kiosk, you mentioned the word expansion, figuring out like franchising and stuff. What a great background and to set you up for success. And so I guess what I want my listeners to pick up on is simply that, what are the things that you're doing right now or have done in a previous life that correlate to success in real estate? Scott, you have a lot of them. So you decide, you make that decision point of, I'm going to enter real estate at this date. Take us through those first couple years. You said you were an individual agent?
Correct. I started as an individual agent, came in. First year in the business, I did 85 transactions as an individual agent. And I took
in your first year?
In my first year. So I got rookie of the year that year. I took bold 4 times that year. I got straight into coaching right when I started with our productivity coach. He still coaches our team. I am in MAPS coaching as well now, so I do both of those. So I that's how the first year went. Second year, I hired my first. So I did have the office offered transaction coordination that you would pay $450 a transaction. Yet after looking at the numbers, it made more sense for me to bring on somebody full time. So I hired my assistant, who is now my director of operations at that time. Now is my director of operations. She was 18 years old, and I would put her up against anybody as far as on the operations side. She is cold. So she came on, and then Jev was my second hire as a buyer specialist, showing specialist. He became a buyer specialist, and now he's a lead agent. And then we brought on one more agent that year. We did 161 transactions.
Wow.
Third year, we did.
Let me just real quick interrupt Scott and just ask you this question. What do you, especially that first year as a solo agent, 85 closed units, that's a success by anybody's standards. I'm just wondering what you attribute that success to your first year.
Accountability, self-accountability. So I created a accountability team inside of our office. So what I would do is it started with a small group, and I said, hey, let's meet at the office every Monday at 8:30, every day at 8:30. And we'll script practice 8:30 to 9, and then we'll make calls 9 to 12. And so it started with the group of 4. And the group of 4, they start dwindling, and the 4 turns into 2 real fast. Well, I was like, you know what, I'm going to start meeting more agents in the office. And in our office at that time, there was 800 agents. Now there's 1,200 agents in the Keller Williams office that we're out of. So at that time I said, I'm going to text 100. I had about 100 agents in our office as a phone number. From Bold, I met everybody just through different groups and different events. I met a lot of agents in our office. So I would text around 60 to 80 agents in our office. And I would say, hey, tomorrow morning, we're going to be making calls. Is there a certain address you would like to call around? I can print the phone numbers, and we're going to be there at 8:30. And I would text, let's say 80, 20 would text back, and 10 would show up. So what I would do the night before is I would go on to Cole Realty Resources. They would send me an address, and I would print the phone numbers for them to call that day. Yeah, that made it accountable for me, because I was like, you know what, I have to show up because they're going to be making these calls. So that's one thing I was really big on. And then for sale by owners, expires. And because, I had that in my past in the nightlife, I thought that was going to transition like that. And it didn't. It took time for that to move over, because when I was when I got into real estate, they were still like, oh, Scott's the guy, like, where are we going tonight? Not, hey, I want to buy a home. So I had to straight door knock, cold call, for sale by owners, expires. And then from there, I was able to build that kind of reputation with the people that were in my database to, hey, he's the guy for real estate now. He's not the guy where we're going tonight no more. So that's really what happened the first year, with just hitting the pavement hard. There's a street out here called Myrtle Street. And that street, I ended up selling 7 homes on just that block, on the 700 block. And those 7 people had to buy. So that ended up being 14 transactions there. And then from there, I farmed that neighborhood.
I love this, because there's so many agents that come into real estate from a long history in another profession, and they say like, well, everyone still looks at me. I was just having this conversation with a car guy, right? He's like, well, everyone still comes to me for cars. How do I get them to come to me for real estate? And if I'm to draw one thing out of, what you just shared, Scott, it's you had to be willing to go actively prospect until your network knew, like, now you're the home guy. And it's not rocket science, but you were willing to be accountable and go do that active prospecting. I mean, is that a fair assessment?
That's 100% right. It happens over time. If I was to go to the gym today and do 100 sit-ups, I'm not going to have a six-pack. It takes time for that to be able to build. And it's the same thing in your business. You're going to have to do the things that people do not want to do in the beginning. And then over time, you'll start getting what you sow.
So you mentioned you did, okay, so 85 units your first year. You then do the math and you understand you're better to hire off your own transaction coordinator. You then bring on a buyer agent. What is your plan at this point as you start to scale your team members to continue to scale the number of transactions that you're doing as a team?
So we leverage is key. So as we continue to grow, it's like, okay, who's going to take care of the paperwork? So that was the first thing we got rid of. Second thing was the buyers on my side. So I said, if I can get rid of all buyers, like we have a PowerPoint presentation for a buyer consultation. And in step 2 of that consultation, I'm introducing the agent, like pass the baton for somebody in my database to explain to them in the book, the one thing that talks about being like a stamp, sticking to one thing till you get where you're going. And this agent right here, they are a lead buyer specialist. This is their gift. This is what they specialize in. I'm still going to be here throughout the transaction, yet they're going to be the ones that are out there finding a perfect house to call your home. So that helped a lot so I could just focus on listings. And then from there, we're just growing more systems inside of our team, from how do you do a mega open house compared to a regular open house. We just don't put 10 signs around the neighborhood and pray people show up. We proactively prospect by door knocking, calling the neighborhood, because we know neighbors like to choose their own neighbors. We do Facebook booths. We make it an event. We have food trucks out there. Like we make our open houses an event. What's going to be the wow factor at that point? And then we have scripts that are very big too for when we do an open house. So like, hi, my name is Scott Malouff with Keller Williams, and we're doing a mega open house at 123 Main Street. And we average between 20 to 25 potential buyers at an open house. Now, as you and I know, only one family is going to be able to make that house their home. So when we have 25 potential buyers show up, and one of them make that house their home, there's going to be 24 other active buyers looking to buy in your neighborhood. Have you ever thought about selling? If you were to sell, when would that be? And those are the type of things that we hit them with when we're doing our open houses. And then you get business from all types of ways. You go on Facebook Live when you're doing it, just to get people's mindset. You become the Coca-Cola of real estate around your database.
That's incredible. All right, so let's go further into this story of exponential growth, because you double basically. Now, I mean, in 5 years, you're going to close what, 1,000 units? So
we went from 85, 161, 238, 410, 432. So that's the 5 years. This is year 6 now, and this year we'll do around 700 units if we stay in the momentum that we have.
Again, by anybody's standards, just enormous and fast growth. I'm curious,
Scott, we've talked to some really heavy hitters in this industry across the world, and yeah, that is just incredible. I'm shell shocked.
I'm not trying to give a plug here for the MREA, but I'm wondering how much of the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book in that model that you followed, how much of that, because you almost described to some extent the 3 L's of leads, listings, and leverage when you were talking about the growth of your team a second ago, and focusing on listings, getting a buyer agent, focusing on hiring administrative staff. How closely have you followed that model?
The MREA is I don't want to say the Bible, but it's what we follow. It's what we look at. And, we tweak a little bit here and there, because the way our team is set up now is building a team inside of the team. So agents do have the opportunity when they reach a certain level to start building a team inside of the team. So we kind of took the expansion model and made it local. So instead of saying, hey, I'm going to go to Dallas, or I'm going to go to Houston, why can't I just get a lead agent here and have them start their team here and use our platform to be able to grow their team? They're still on the same splits as they would be if they were an expansion team, yet we did it local.
So what do you feel like is most important when developing a value proposition to retain people in that type of model?
Culture. Your culture has to be the lead. I mean, if your culture isn't there, they're not going to stay. So I think that's the biggest part of our team is our culture. We are a family-based team. You really feel like you're on a family when you're part of our organization. Our mission is to influence people in all aspects of life by pursuing their God-given gifts and creating everlasting relationships that will impact them forever. So my main thing is figuring out somebody's gift, how I'm going to take them from one season to the next season of their life, and then how they're going to grow from there, and then push them accountability.
I feel like I don't want to lead you into an answer, but I almost think I know what your answer is going to be. When I'm consulting top agents like you, Scott, one of the things early in the journey that I consistently see show up is this unwillingness or just this fear of letting go of control. Right? Like no one can do the paperwork as good as me. Then it's no one can do buyers like me. No one can do listings like me. And I see that over and over and over, and it inhibits someone's growth. How are you able, like, why were you so quickly able to just like leverage pieces of the business off?
So I look at it like ROI to ROE, return on investment to return on energy. Where should my time best be spent? If this is a $30 an hour paperwork position and I'm making $1,000 an hour doing for sale by owners, I need to be focused on my one thing, and everything else can be leveraged. So if you do not learn to leverage, you're going to reach ceilings a lot faster. So learning to let go, your ceilings, you can break through them because you're letting somebody else use their gift to be able to do what they do. So I know my thing was I'm a hunter. They're a skinner. I go out there, I hunt, I bring it back home to Mama Bear. Y'all take care of the mess that we might create, and we go out and get some more. So that's what we do.
Well, and that word is consistently shown up, and it shows up in your mission statement. It showed up when you hired that first buyer specialist and how you position them in your presentation. That word is gift. Like you're hunting for that person's giftedness, and then you're empowering them and building them up in that giftedness. It's a really others focused approach, which is, I mean, that's true leadership.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. I'm curious to ask you about your efficiency here with time, Scott. How much time do you put into preparation, planning, envisioning the future, versus just getting into daily action? Because I imagine with this kind of growth, you have to be pretty forward thinking and be willing to, like David said, let go of some of the reins and see the future. How much time in preparation and planning were you doing over the last 5 years and continuing to do?
So I have a white space. I have my white space that I focus on Fridays. It's actually after this. So it's around a 3-hour time frame that I just think, and I'm like, okay, what can I do for this person, or what's going on with this, or where are we growing, or what am I missing right now? So those are things that we always prep. And then the value proposition of your team always kind of, as the industry goes the way it's going, we have to shift sometimes too. So I've had to continue to add more value to our team. We now have, we have where it's a tier program. Yet once an agent reaches a certain tier, I go 50-50 with them on their MAPS coach. So now I'm thinking, okay, how can they grow? And then they have a MAPS coach. And then if they reach the next tier, I'm fully paying for their MAPS coach. And then on the ops team, how do we create a better system for them? So we had in-house transaction coordinators come and go. And it was always the agents and the TCs. They were just butting heads a lot, it just felt. So we went straight virtual with everything. So now we have Victoria, she was the first hire. She's now 23. And we have 4 cyberbackers that take care of everything on the team. And I mean, we're fully leveraged. So they take care of, everything on the back end. It's really nice the way they have it. So when we moved over to Cyberbacker, that helped us a lot.
So you have Victoria, who's your director of operations in person. So you have that in person, and then she runs the team of VAs. Yeah, very similar to expansion.
So she has a lead VA, and then under the lead VA are the other 3 VAs. So our lead VA trains the other VAs now.
And what I love about that, what that does for you going into the expansion model, is it limits the number of direct reports you personally have, Scott, so that you don't have 7, 10, 15 people that you're responsible for. You can narrow your focus to the most important people, which in this case is that lead administrator, and then of course your agents themselves. And I just want to circle back to the fact that you spend 3 hours every week on just white space thinking about your people and how to grow and develop them and your business. I feel like I wanted to reiterate that, because we talk about white space and planning time a lot, but 3 hours a week is like a true commitment to spending some time on this and making it a habit. And I encourage our listeners to think about when and where are you building in time to really just brainstorm, think, and wonder how the vision of your business is evolving and how you can pour more into your people and retain that talent in your business.
Yeah, the separation is in the preparation. The more you prepare yourself, the more you're going to be able to separate yourself from others.
I'm telling you, I'm reactivating my Twitter, Scott, and just quoting you. Like, I mean, so many good tweets. ROI, ROE.
That was a good one too. Yeah.
So talk to me about the relationship between you and your director of operations as well, because, you know, I'll speak personally, and Joe and I are trying to grow through these episodes. That's the selfish reason for doing our podcast. I find sometimes that taking the vision from here and communicating it to the operations team, there's sometimes a disconnect. Have you ever felt like that, and how have you grown through that?
So knowing each other's hearts help. The book Rocket Fuel definitely helps with this when it comes to integrator and visionaries, because there is times where we bump heads, and I have to have it like, she's like, well, you need to do it. And we're going back and forth because I'm putting out the vision, yet she's the one that's going to be the one putting all the puzzle pieces together on the way there. So it is, we have a great relationship when it comes to that, because I know at the end of the day where her heart is, and she would never say something that's going to go against myself or the business. And same with me. She knows that, when we're thinking big, it's never selfish. It's for everybody. So we protect each other more than anything.
Love it. So here you are, year 6. And you're continuing to think in those white space times about how to grow and imagine, the possibilities. You talk about expanding inside of your city locally. What's next for your group, Scott? Where does Scott want to bring this next?
So our 5-year goal is to have 5% market share in San Antonio, which is 4,332 transactions in a year. Yeah, we have started businesses inside of the business. So we created a profit share model for agents when they reach a certain team. It's called MIG Arms. And we started a credit repair business. And the credit repair business now, once an agent is at a certain level, they get a certain percentage of the profit share when it comes to that. We have a media team. So we have a full-time videographer on our team. Yeah, we also offer that to other businesses. And if they pick a video package, the agent that refers that gets a percentage of that, whatever that referral number is, as well as the profit on that, also 49% of that go back to the agents. And then we have an ISA team that we also offer to other businesses. Because if you think of your favorite pizzeria, when was the last time you got a call and said, hey, I just wanted to call David and let them know, hey, David, this Friday, we're going to be doing a buy one pizza, get one pizza free. You're one of our VIP clients. So we're only offering this to our top clients. And we just want to let you know between 5 and 8, we're going to be doing this for y'all. We would love to see you there. We appreciate your business over the years, and we want to thank you. You don't get that from other businesses other than real estate. So those are things that we've created for other businesses to be able to help add value, as well as title company, mortgage. I know what we got coming with Keller Williams soon, that mortgage is going to be a little bit of a different. Yeah, there's other businesses we have in mind that we are looking to start within the next 5 years, like an Airbnb service for our clients, because we have a lot of clients that are buying Airbnbs Yet they're like, do you have anybody that can manage it? And there's nobody really here locally. So that's another business that we're going to be offering to clients. And then a profit from that will be going back to the agents as long as they stay on the team.
I love how focused it is, how integrated it is. I mean, it just sounds like you're doing everything right.
There's tons of synergy lines there, obviously as ways to grow your business. And I'm also hearing in between all the ways that you're using that business growth as a way to retain the talented people in your world by giving them more incentive, ownership opportunities, growth opportunities. And so that's obviously going to retain that talent. I'm wondering, for only being in the business a handful of years, Scott, you're obviously very forward thinking and very far along in your business. Some people take 10, 15, 20 years to get to where you're at, and even just to get to the mindset of where you're at. What do you attribute that mindset part of this equation to?
I feel you go through a lot of things in life, and in life you can become a victim or you become victorious. And when you're victorious, when situations come at you, it makes you a stronger person, that you're able to get over things a lot faster. So for myself, it's like when negativity happens, you have the memory of a goldfish, 5 seconds, I gotta let that go. There's no such thing as a bad day, there's just bad moments, and it's how you let that moment affect you and how your day's gonna go. So mindset has been able to help me, and I feel I've had mentors. My mom was a single mother. She helped me a lot growing up. She passed away 4 years ago. And then my grandfather helped raise me, and he passed away 3 weeks ago. So when you have things like that happen to you, a legacy is not what people leave for you, it's what they leave in you. And the legacy they left in me has made me a stronger person to know that I got to keep growing and going to be able to live what they brought into me.
I want to make sure all of our listeners heard that. A legacy is not what someone leaves for you, it's what they leave in you.
I'm writing it down verbatim right now. That was perfectly well articulated.
Scott, that alone was just like mic drop, powerful, get people to think bigger. I mean, that's what we're all about is, pushing the chips all in on your business and your life, so that you can dream bigger, you can leave a bigger legacy. And that's incredible there. One thing I want to ask you, because it's shown up in your story at several points, you talk about the MREA, you throw out a bunch of other like Keller Williams lingo, and this isn't a KW podcast, so for listeners that are a little confused by some of the lingo, that's fine. But I want you to comment on, it just sounds like you're really actively involved in your brokerage, in your market center. Why do you do that? Why do you place a high value on that?
So when it comes to the value system at Keller Williams, God, family, business, as well as the culture, our team has always played all in when it comes to it. Yet we created our own culture inside of the culture. Yet our values always aligned. And making sure that we're around people that are forward thinking as well has been able to help our team, because we like to be around that energy. Like our office is inside of the Keller Williams office because we like to be around it. It's just something I can't really explain. Yet they helped me catapult to where we are today. So I feel I have a loyalty to them as we continue to grow.
That's awesome. And I say to agents all the time, and I don't care what your office is, but there's a positive environment, there's a negative environment, there is kind of a neutral environment, and then there's a productivity specific environment. And there's something about being around the productivity specific environment where you walk into a room and you feel the energy. You talk about return on energy, you feel the energy, and there is a correlation between showing up in those types of environment and plugging in and doing the activity with other people so that there's that accountability, just like in your rookie year, that leads to massive success. And I think a lot of agents miss that, and I don't want them to. I want them to understand when you show up, the results show up. Man, where else should we go? Because I just feel like every question, there's so much value.
Yeah, I've got one place I want to take us real quick. Scott, you mentioned your first year you did Bold 4 times, which is of course a training and production course, and then you mentioned your productivity coach that it sounded like had a pretty big impact on you. Talk to me a little bit about the effect of that productivity coach your first year, and then you even went on to mention that you split coaching for your agents at a certain point. So obviously you're a big proponent of coaching. Talk to us a little bit about how that's had an impact on you.
So to be a professional, you need some type of coaching. LeBron James has a coach. I mean, it don't matter what level you're at, you still have a coach. So Steve Collins, he's still our productivity coach at the Market Center. Yet for an agent, when they come on our team, we have them in group coaching. It's called emerging group coaching. Then you graduate into proven group coaching. Both are with him, proven, emerging. And then we move into 50-50 with MAPS. So right now I have 7 MAPS contracts out, just because that's an investment in people. Now, when you think about it with yourself, if you're not willing to invest in yourself, why should other people invest in you? You have to continue to invest in your thinking and your growth, and then also you have blind spots. And having a coach is going to be able to help detect those and say, hey, have you thought about this? Or, hey, I understand you said this, but let's look at this. And also when it comes to P&Ls, my MAPS coach, when I first got with him, he took my last 2 years bank statements and he ripped the news. What's going on here? What's going on? Like he went in on me. And since then we've gone a lot. We've gone up 8% profitability since I joined him. So those are things that happen with the right coach. The right coach. What is it? When the student is ready, the master appears. Those are the coaches that I feel that have showed up in my life as I've grown. And Jordan Freed is my MAPS coach. He's phenomenal, and he definitely has me thinking too.
Jordan's a stud. Well, Scott, we could talk for hours, literally, about all these things. I mean, massive success. And what I appreciate about you most, I think, is how humble you are about it and how others focused you are. And, there's a shift that occurs in every business owner where you go from being a salesman to a leader. And salesmanship and leadership are 2 different skill sets. And it sounds like even, I'll say early in your career, your real estate career, you've learned and are learning that, shift, and it shows up again in the results. So massive congratulations there. Should we transition, or do you?
Let me make one comment and then we'll transition, because I just want to piggyback off of what David just said and kind of just give you a compliment. Going back to humble and really like the self-awareness. You seem like a really values-based person, and you seem like somebody who's really in tune with what you want and why you want it. And then that shows up organically in your life. And I'm sort of just speculating here, but it's showing up in all of what you're saying about your growth and your leadership and the way that you're pouring into your people. And so I just want to compliment you on that and just say that it's really awesome to speak with somebody who is so values-based and so self-aware with what they're doing and why they're doing it.
I appreciate y'all. One thing I have learned, though, is everything I have is not mine. I do give thanks to God for everything, because it can be taken away like that. And if you do start to get ego, the word ego stands for eliminate, growth, opportunity. So when you have ego, there's no more room to grow. So that's one thing I'm very careful on is, I know that it can be taken away like that. And when it comes to leadership, Gary talks about it too, but true leaders don't create followers. They create more leaders. And that's my goal, is to create more leaders inside of our organization that are going to lead others.
It's awesome. I heard a mentor, one of my mentors tell me that ego also stood for edging God out, which is huge. I'm right in alignment with you there. Man, so good. Such good stuff. Let's transition into the last segment of our show, which we call 3, 2, 1 action. It's the same 3 questions we ask every guest. You ready?
Let's go.
You might have to take off the hat. It might be capturing too much of the heat. There we go. Good
All
stuff.
right, Scott, question number 1. Who's the one person who has had the biggest influence on your business and why?
I would say that would be my grandfather. He was there for me till 3 weeks ago. Yeah, he's still with me. He was a chief master sergeant in the Air Force. He had a lot of leadership qualities in him throughout his career. And he always made sure I understood that family came first. And that's something that, even though the people on our team aren't my blood relatives, they are family to me too. And that's something that he's instilled in me. And the way he just was with people, he'd always invite everybody over for dinner. And he didn't, it didn't matter who it was. We're Lebanese, so he'd make a big Lebanese meal and say, "You're going to try this and this and that." And, we eat this called kibbeh naya, which is a raw meat. And, people will come over and they were like, "Are you serious?" He did on culture. And that's one thing that he taught me.
That's awesome. Question number 2, what is the most influential book on your business and why?
I think Rocket Fuel has been a big one. We talked about that one earlier, MREA and The One Thing. So I think The One Thing is a good one to start with because there's no such thing as multitasking, and you learn that early in the business. So that's one thing that I think The One Thing is a book that every agent should read. And I know this probably sounds like, man, he's giving a commercial for Keller Williams today. Yet it's The One Thing is a book that definitely has helped my career.
Awesome.
And third and final question, as you know, Scott, this is the All In Podcast where we encourage our listeners to take what they've heard today and to go do something with it. So the last question is, what is the one action item that you would give to our listeners to go start to move the needle forward in their business so that they can continue to grow in their lane?
Get a coach. If you don't have a coach, you need to get a coach. And make sure you hold yourself accountable. If you set goals for yourself, put dates behind it. A goal without a date is just a dream. So start putting dates behind all of your goals, because if you don't also, you don't even know the target you're shooting at. So start writing those out. Make sure you write them down. And so first you learn, then you earn, then you return. Now, when you return, it's not always in money. You can give back knowledge that you learn as well to others. So when you reach that level, make sure you go back and help people up. We never look down on somebody unless we're helping them up, and you're going to help up a lot of people on your journey.
Awesome. Oh man, so well spoken, Scott. So inspiring. Thank you so much for spending some time with us. Hey, I know our listeners are going to want to connect with you, going to want to learn, see more of your content. Where's the best place for them to connect with you?
So Instagram is one, the S Malouff. We also have Malouff International Group on Instagram. Facebook with Malouff International Group. My Facebook personal page is at capacity, so that one won't work no more. Or they can just email me direct at scott@malouffig.com.
I love it. Awesome stuff, Scott. Thank you so much for investing time with us. We know that you're busy, and we know that you have 3 hours of white space to get to, man. I can't wait to connect with you at the next conference, stuff like that. I think that's about it.
I appreciate y'all. If y'all need anything, again, San Antonio, we're always here for y'all.
Love it. Guys, that's a wrap on another episode of the All In Podcast. As always, go play all in.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to this episode of the All In Podcast. We want to invite you to find all of today's resources from our show page at aipodcast.co. We also ask that you take just 1 minute to leave us a review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast. This is how we grow and how we're able to bring you the best content each and every week. Now go play all in.